Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you clicked on this video, you're probably thinking about or have just started Muay Thai and you're wondering if it's right for you and if it's too late to start in your 30s. I actually started Muay Thai in October of 2022, so as of right now, it's been almost 2 years that I've been training. So I am going to share my insights, my initial thoughts, some things I've learned, some things to be aware of, and where to from here. And answering the biggest question that you might have, is it too late to start Muay Thai in your 30s? Now, how it all began, I actually started watching MMA. I watched the UFC when I first met Lang, so I'd never really paid attention to it before. And then from there, I kind of fell in love with the sport and would religiously watch it on the weekends when there'd be fight nights or big UFC fights. And then Lang actually started in June, July of 2022, so he started earlier than me. And I remember he would just come home after a class and be super ecstatic about what he learned. He would take me through some of the moves. So that just got me intrigued and I thought, hey, why not? Why don't I just give it a go? But I was super apprehensive about it. So I actually decided to just rock up to one of his classes and watch. So I was sitting at the back of the class and I could see the interactions between each of the students, so each of the people learning Muay Thai, as well as the coach. After watching that one class, I mustered up the courage to actually have a trial. So I did a 5-day trial at the Muay Thai / kickboxing gym. And let me tell you, it was definitely a shock. I thought I was pretty fit to start off with because I've been doing weight training, a little bit of Olympic weightlifting, but my cardio was absolute garbage. I think if you've done sports in the past, or like myself, I've done dancing, ballet, tap, modern, a whole array of different types of dancing and movement with the body. So I think if you've done that in the past, you probably have a pretty good base with proprioception, how you move your body, coordination, hand-eye coordination. So I had a pretty good base, but in terms of actually learning specific Muay Thai footwork, hands, learning to be calm, that sort of thing, I absolutely sucked. A typical Muay Thai lesson will look like a warm-up at the start, whether it's skipping, some push-ups, sit-ups, squats in between each of those skipping rounds. Sometimes you might do running, sometimes you might just do shadow boxing, and then usually depending on the coach, you'd get into some pad work with a partner. So that's just going through different drills, might be focusing on boxing, might be focusing on leg kicks, body kicks, checking, or incorporating all of those things together. And then most likely you'll get into some sparring or conditioning work at the end. Sparring is self-explanatory, go for a round and then you would switch partners and spar with someone else. Sometimes the conditioning, you'll be doing bag work with a partner or kind of circuit training, just getting that heart rate up, trying to go as hard and fast as possible. As most of you who have probably started or looking at starting, the warm-up is sometimes harder than the actual session itself. So we actually start skipping for anywhere between 2 to 6 minutes before getting into the actual class. And let me tell you, 1, my form was crap. 2, I couldn't skip for more than 30 seconds without getting gassed. So I would skip for 30 seconds and then I would just have to stop and catch my breath because I was that unfit. But of course, with anything, the longer I progressed, the longer I just kept at it and practicing, not only at classes, but in my own time. I actually ended up figuring out a way to skip without using so much energy. So not doing the whole double jump or jumping too high because that uses way too much energy. Now it's just kind of like a nice casual skipping one foot to the other. And I could probably do it for well over 15 minutes now without getting gas. Another thing that I was really bad at is that I was so stiff. You learn the movements and keeping your hands up, keeping your guard up so you don't get clocked in the face, because obviously if your hands are down here, you're not really going to protect your face, your chin, your temples. So I think trying to remember to keep your guard up but not be super scrunched up like this. I was pretty much doing everything really, really stiff. So I was like, you know, those rock'em sock'em robots? That's what I looked like at the very start. So it took me a while to kind of relax the shoulders, take your time, be a little bit more fluid with movements. So that's probably something that you need to be careful of when you start. But of course, when you start, most people go through that sort of process only to learn from it down down the track. Another thing from when I first started is that I actually hated sparring. The reason being was because one, I didn't really know what I was doing, and two, fighting other people, everyone's scary, I'm gonna get punched, I'm gonna get kicked. So it was very nerve-wracking getting into. I think the first time, I think it was within one of the first weeks of when I started, when the coach said, okay, now everyone get your gear on, we're sparring. I just froze. I was terrified. Generally, you'll go for one round and then you'll switch partners and spar with someone else. Before we get started, just actually let the person know that you are brand new and to go super, super light. There's no shame in doing that. 9 times out of 10, they will actually go easy on you, sometimes even give you tips. I've gotten some of the best tips just from sparring some of the advanced fighters. Another thing to expect when you start Muay Thai is you're gonna get some bruises, especially if you haven't been doing any contact sport as of late. This is a contact sport, so expect to have bruises all up your shins, sometimes on your forearms from doing elbows, sometimes on your quads when you're doing leg kick conditioning. So essentially at the start, I was not conditioned at all and I would just come home with bruises all the time. On that same topic though, injuries, yes, it's a contact sport and sometimes you can get minor injuries. As long as you're not going too hard, it's usually pretty easy to kind of rest and recover from little injuries. Just a couple that I've had in the past, overextending my arms. So if I'm overextending and kind of locking out too much when I'm throwing a punch and we're doing pad work, I'll overextend and really hurt my elbows, which doesn't really last, the pain doesn't last too long. Minor sprains, depending on how it's a lot of jumping, a lot of very dynamic plyometric movement. So sometimes you might feel minor sprains either in the wrists or in your elbows, in your knees, or in your ankles. And I actually got a staph infection on my face. So it started off as a sore up here, and then I was just thinking that I cut myself. It progressively got worse and spread across my face where I had little sores everywhere and I started feeling really fatigued, and I went to the doctor and found out that I actually had a staph infection. This is quite common in contact sports and especially fighting. So if you find out that you do have a staph infection, do not go to training. Otherwise you will infect other people. So try to stay home. I took 2 weeks off training, but definitely you just need to make sure that you get that right, get it fixed up, and then you can return to training again. Some of the things that I've learned since starting Muay Thai training, especially when you're sparring, is conserving your energy. So at the start, you probably want to just throw as much as you can, but what I've learned is just taking your time, focusing on keeping calm, keeping fluid, and then kind of just almost countering anytime someone throws something at you, just throwing a counter back, because then you can conserve your energy a lot more, especially when it's more of an aggressive opponent. You can use your footwork to angle off. So conserving the energy is something really important, and it makes sure that you don't get super gassed when you're sparring or when you're doing pad work. Another thing that I've learned from Muay Thai is bag work is quite important. So I used to think, what am I going to be doing on the bag? I actually have no idea what I'm throwing. I just a couple of punches here and there. What I actually found was really helpful is on YouTube, there's an actual pro fighter, Sean Fagan, and he does all of these different types of bag workout that you can just put your headphones in and listen to as you go. And that's fully guided, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and you can follow that around. And just by doing those a couple of times, then you can learn and retain enough information that you can just set a timer and do your own bag workout. So I found that that was quite helpful when learning to do the bag. I found that I was able to perfect my roundhouse kick by using the bag as well, just focusing on all of the guidance that my coaches had given me in the past and just practicing stepping out rather than stepping forward, and then flicking the hip in rather than kicking up. So that was super helpful, and since then my kicks have improved tremendously. I think I have a video of when I was doing kicks back in January of 2023 and they just absolute garbage in comparison to now when I'm able to just fully flick in and do a proper roundhouse kick. with a lot more finesse, speed, and power. Another really helpful guide is actually, I follow Jeff Chan. You might know his channel as MMA Shredded, but he actually goes through a lot of free content in terms of his favorite drills to work on when you're doing pad work or when you're doing sparring, as well as counter drills. So I think by learning those, you can make them a lot more fluid when you're sparring. So just drilling those different combos over and over and over again. Lang and I actually did a lot of this work on the pads, and I find that if you find something that actually works really well in sparring, just use that and continue to build on it and make it better each time, because the best counter or the best moves are the ones that feel right and the ones that feel really fluid, the ones that you've practiced a lot of the time. Another thing that I've learned from the classes is when you're doing pad work, it's not about remembering the moves and doing them as fast as you can, but just drilling the correct technique in every single time, because then when you find that someone throws a leg kick, you're able just to lift your leg and check straight away. So I think what I've found is not just trying to pick it up and do it as quickly as possible, but really taking your time to get the technique right. I think another really cool thing about Muay Thai is that it's a really friendly environment, especially if you find a good gym. 9 times out of 10 there'll be good gyms. I haven't thankfully been to a bad one or come across any really nasty people or anything like that. Most of the time people are super chill. You might find you make some really good friends there, get along with the coaches, you get to listen to some cool music while you're training. So I think meeting the people there and building that community around the things that you enjoy is really cool. So the ultimate question, are you too old to train Muay Thai in your 30s? Absolutely not. So if I can do it, then absolutely you can as well. Yes, you're going to suck at the start, but the more you work on something, the more proficient you'll become. So where to from here? Well, I am just gonna keep training. I've really fallen in love with the training and just getting better. I realize there's lots of things that I've improved at over this time. So looking back on where I started as to where I am now, I've really enjoyed the growing process and learning process, but there's definitely so much that I need to work on, to improve, and just to overall feel more confident in. I think the next steps from here is I do want to test my skills. So unlike BJJ where you get different colored belts to signify how much you're progressing and moving up a rank every time, there's nothing like that in Muay Thai. There's just your own skill level. So to test that out, I do want to enter into an inter-club down the track. I'm a bit scared to do that right now, but it's something that I do want to achieve and tick that off my bucket list, because it would just tell me that yes, I can actually do this really difficult thing and get past my own mental barriers, and just to test the skills and see what the whole process is like preparing for a fight. But that about does it from me. I hope this has been helpful for you. If you've been thinking about starting Muay Thai, just do it, go for a trial and test it out and see if it's right for you. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss any of our future adventures or any of my extra fitness or Muay Thai updates. Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious. I'll see you on the next video.